my name is Desimone. I'm the founder of Rove. With Rove, we're a mobile app. We were initially built on Solana. We're now multi-chain, approved for the App Store. And our main focus is on loyalty reward programs for brands utilizing NFT technology, as well as blockchain ticketing. We've been live for 2 months now, getting a lot of traction. And yeah, our main focus is on onboarding the masses and this next evolution of NFTs. So really excited to dive in with you guys.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me today. My name is Westover, co-founder of Callback. Callback is a NFT ecosystem builder based in Tokyo, Japan. So we've been kind of deploying NFT projects specifically in Japan for the past 2 years. We work predominantly in the fashion industry, but also kind of lifestyle and sports as well.
And I'm Jamal. I am not a founder like these two brilliant guys, so I need to step my game up. But I am the head of strategy and commercial at a company called Wire. Wire is one of the largest crypto payments companies in the space, founded in 2011. You might recognize it from being the primary payments company in MetaMask or Ledger, or for the GameStop wallet, or for Live Nation's NFT marketplace, or you name it. Been there for about 2 years, but I've been in the crypto space for about 7. Before this, I led payment partnerships at Square's Cash App, was there for about a year, managed their institutional product as well with crypto companies as well, and then was there for about a year. Before that, I led global BD for another crypto payments company called BitPay from 2016 to 2020. And then before that, took my hand at a bullshit Ethereum startup that didn't work out, which is why I'm here. But thanks for having us.
All right, guys. So to kick it off, I think it's important that we look at the current state of NFTs, where they are right now, right, in order to understand the next evolution of those. So, just as brief overview, we know NFTs have been around for a while. Some of the early ones, CryptoPunks, CryptoKitties, 2016, 2017. But this last cycle was really the biggest sort of mass adoption we've seen in NFTs as a whole. And this ushered in a new wave of creators, artists, entertainers, celebrities across the board. A lot of these were led by this phenomenon of JPEGs, some of the biggest being Bored Apes, Azukis, Doodles, DeGods, etc. These 10K PFP collections really blowing up. In the bear market, there's some talks that this is unsustainable and we need changes in the space. So I kind of just wanted to open up and see your guys' take on sort of what went wrong with the this first evolution of NFTs before we discuss like where the next evolution is going.
For me, I think we doubled down a little too heavily on content creators in the last kind of cycle, and I think that's really important. Those guys are obviously the key cohort that's going to drive the NFT space before. But I'm a very big believer in doubling down on developers and finding a developer community and removing roadblocks for developers. I think the one thing that we take for granted is that the NFT boom, or whatever you want to call it, was really primarily escalated by marketplaces and applications like OpenSea and etc. And that accessibility is probably what allowed so much money to enter the space so quickly. So I think in the next cycle, what's most important is that we focus on removing developer roadblocks, making it super easy for people to mint NFTs, to create communities around it, and then on top of that, get a lot of utility and a lot of money for that NFT as well. Which I guess brings me to another thing that I think didn't focus on in the first round, which was we focused too much on collectibles and the value of something being inherent on the blockchain and being immutable, which is cool for sure, but there's a massive world out there of utility-based NFTs that can really solve a lot of pain points and a lot of issues, and I don't think we focused on that as much the first time around.
So we've been quite shielded from the crypto winter, so to speak, in Japan. Web3 is still very nascent, not a huge community yet, and from what I was seeing from abroad, a lot of the initial NFT boom was highly speculative and not particularly maybe focused so much on utility or community. But we're seeing that in Japan, people actually buy and hold their NFTs. So although we have yet, because of the kind of non-speculation, we don't have these blue chip NFT projects that are kind of reminiscent of the first wave, we're seeing that people want to buy, want to hold, want to actually create a community with NFTs. And we're hoping that that kind of helps onboard the masses moving forward.
Great. Yeah, and just to add my 2 cents here, I think Jamal and Dylan hit on some of the key points here. I think one thing to echo is this focus on speculation, right, and collectibles versus true utility, and a reason to hold these NFTs past an initial hype cycle. Of course, it worked with a few blue chips, but the vast majority, went to zero. And it's very difficult to, oversee a community, with a 3 to 5 year roadmap. So I think that was one of the keys there. Something Jamal mentioned around focus on the developers and the infrastructure. We've seen, the first boom of NFTs on Ethereum. We then saw it, expand into Solana, Cardano, Avalanche, now Ordinals on Bitcoin. And I think, I agree with Jamal that this next cycle really needs to be spearheaded by developers and infrastructure. Like right now, if you want to onboard an average person, you have to send them to a centralized exchange to buy gas, whether that's ETH or Sol. They have to move it to a MetaMask, right? They have to connect that MetaMask to a website, hope that it's not a scam site, mint an NFT, then it sits in their wallet. They don't know what to do with it, right? There's just so many barriers to entry to actually get the masses in. And I think last but not least, just to wrap this up, I think this is a problem that plagues the entire crypto space as a whole, but a lack of regulatory clarity. It's not just with tokens, it's with NFTs as well. And given the nature of the space, most people are anonymous, right? They're rocking JPEGs on Twitter. You don't actually know who's behind the projects. And there's a misalignment of incentives, right? It's, this is what led to a lot of quote unquote rug pulls where an NFT collection mints out and then the founders ghost. They just stop on the project, it goes to zero, and there's no recourse. You don't know who to go after, right? So I think that stifled a lot of innovation. So, just to get to the really like the crux and the meat of this, the next logical progression, and I know you've hit on it a bit, Jamal, but it's if that is where what was wrong with the current state of NFTs, what should we look forward to in this next evolution? What will really sort of spearhead this next cycle, and where do we see NFTs going as a whole?
I'll speak first then. So since Japan's just starting to take on this NFT and whole kind of Web3 market, we're seeing that there's way too much friction, as Jason was saying, to onboarding users to Web3. So a lot of companies, ourselves included, are creating kind of frictionless experiences to onboard. Perhaps there's an event or there's a drop, and invite people to actually come to the actual kind of live drop, have them scan a QR code, maybe tap an NFC sticker, or click a link, having them, and then just like a frictionless experience to both mint the NFT and also get your first wallet. So that was our first mission as a team. But then after that, we realized that creators that want to create NFT projects have no idea how to do that either. They don't know what chain to use. They don't know how to deploy a successful project. They don't know how to provide utility. And so that's where we're looking forward. What we're looking at in the future is, okay, you have these assets you want to hand out. You have this community that you've culminated. So how do you actually, keep in touch with that community? How do you engage them moving forward?
Yeah, like plus 100 to that for sure. I think mastering the user experience is going to be really important. I think we have tapped out. We're getting close to the max with all the crypto degens a little bit. We've successfully gotten the money out of them. I think now how do we onboard the next billion people into crypto? And it's going to come from a completely different experience. It's going to come from a completely different ethos, if you ask me. But I think number one thing that we don't really pay attention to his point earlier, is the regulatory side, and I'll spill that over a little bit into the licensing side and the financial compliance side. Most people don't realize how much just like stuff goes into the financial infrastructure just to like hold money or move money within an NFT platform. And I think that's the beauty of what crypto solves, and that's amazing. But I think for the time being, we need to recognize that there's a massive amount of compliance and financial infrastructure that goes into creating a marketplace that actually looks and feels like Amazon or buying something at Target or something like that. So I think, I think one of the most important things that we need to figure out is, what is that licensing structure? What does that financial compliance structure look like? NFTs are brand new, and regulators are way behind on figuring out how to properly regulate them as expected, which is fine. But what that means is it's kind of on us to kind of figure out what is the best, most compliant way to provide a safe and friendly user experience to the next billion people, or else they're not going to really onboard into the next cycle here, because they're going to be burned by rug pulls and scams and whatnot. So I think like licensing compliance is going to be an important layer to mix in. It's not the sexiest layer. To most, right? I think to some people it's definitely a sexy layer, but ultimately at the end of the day, I think most people don't really pay attention to how much like licensing infrastructure. For example, in the United States, if you want to hold $1 for any U.S. user, or crypto for any U.S. user in the United States, you need to have a money transmitter license in every single state that you want to do that, which is multiple millions of dollars, requires a team of compliance folks, requires audited financials, which is another $1 million, right? So just a lot of infrastructure goes into making that experience very, very, very seamless. And I think one thing that we really need to do in the next cycle is pay attention to some of those compliance programs, some of those processes, and then build out the next layer of innovation around that.
That's a great answer. I think that's something that's extremely overlooked too. What Jamal just hit on. The space as a whole needs to drastically mature. I think we all know we're in our early days, but some of that sort of unsexy maturity is what's going to actually lead to mass adoption, and onboarding more users. I think just. We talked a lot about the negatives of this cycle, but what it did show is the ability in Web3 to create a brand with essentially like very little startup money, potentially with some of these collections, and you have like a sometimes viral and loyal community of over 10,000 people rocking your brand daily, evangelizing it. Like we haven't really seen the ability to grow out brands at this scale in Web 2. So I think we all see the potential there, but it just has a long way to go. I'm going to echo a lot of what Dylan said, which is something we focus on a lot at Rove, which is the user experience. And we think that's going to be the key to unlock the potential of NFTs. So I mentioned before some of the obstacles that an average user experiences when buying an NFT. We think the next cycle is going to be driven by consumer-friendly products, specifically mobile, and we're starting to see the first wave of that. So at Rove, we built a mobile app with calls to the blockchain, approved for iOS and Android, and we think that's how you get these in the hands of billions of users. From there, just going to talk a little bit about how we approach it, which is obviously tied into all this. But you log in with an email address, and a digital wallet's created for you. You don't need to memorize the seed phrase, go through all the processes of setting that up. There's fiat on-ramps, right? Credit card payment integrations. We cover the gas, right? Which is important. So users essentially don't need to hold crypto to buy NFTs in our app, to transfer NFTs. So we remove a lot of the regulatory uncertainty of people needing to hold crypto tokens, and the sort of administrative burden of that, in terms of sending them to centralized exchanges just to get back into the app. So a real focus. Oh, and last but not least, interacting with usernames, right? On Venmo, if I'm sending money to someone, I'm sending it to their username. I'm not sending it to a long wallet address of digits and numbers. Letters and numbers. So these are some like areas we're really focused on. If we can create a user-friendly experience where people buying NFTs don't even realize they're making calls to the blockchain or interacting with the blockchain, right? It's just built into the normal user experience. And we've seen attempts of this with like Reddit, right, and Starbucks and some of these brands that are onboarding. But that's something that really needs to be amplified. And we're seeing a lot in gaming as well. So I think that's going to be the main driver of this next cycle and how we really, onboard this next wave. I want to, in the last 10 minutes, give a chance. I know, we've all hit on it in bits, but give everyone up here a chance to speak specifically about their company or project and how they're going about this task to onboard the next billion users. So Jamal, if you want to start with what you're doing at Wire.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
then we could pass it to Dylan.
Yeah, Wire is I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it. Well, been around for a while. Founded in 2012. One of the largest crypto payments companies in the space. Last year did around $6 billion in total volume. On like 8, 9, 10 million users. I should probably know the stats a little bit better off the top of my head. Most people know us from last year. We actually signed a deal to be the largest crypto acquisition in crypto history for $1.5 billion. That deal actually didn't come through because of the bear market, but it did give us a good amount of press and a good amount of notoriety. But it calls out what we're doing most, and that is to earlier what I talked about is removing roadblocks for developers, and that's the thesis behind Wire. We started Wire early in the day, and we focused on building cool crypto stuff, and then we realized there's such little infrastructure out there that it made it really difficult for other people to do cool stuff too. And when you talk about onboarding the masses, it really comes from developer innovation that changes the space, things what these guys are doing right now that will actually literally bring in the next billion people in, which is not the current target market that we're targeting now. So anyway, Wire provides a set of APIs to make it really easy to build that financial infrastructure. There's half of the stack or half of the platform, which is more around that regulatory infrastructure, having to get licenses, having to have a deep compliance program, having to do AML monitoring, having to do like suspicious transaction reporting and things like that, which are all requirements from the federal and state governments to do these kind of transactions. The goal of Wire is to obfuscate that to a developer. The developer doesn't care, doesn't want to care. They just want to build cool stuff, right? So from that perspective, Wire will handle all of that regulatory work, make sure that the funds move compliantly, make sure you onboard your users with KYC and the whole 9 yards that you need to, so that you can focus on the cooler parts, which are the crypto side. And then the other side is more on bridging the gap between traditional financial instruments and mechanisms and crypto, right? Being able to use your credit card to buy crypto, being able to use your credit card to buy an NFT directly, being able to hold crypto assets alongside your fiat assets, being able to be interoperable between those two different assets, and then payouts globally, being able to deliver fiat to your bank account so there is utility and actual value to the crypto that you're holding and the NFT that you're holding. Making all of this interoperable and really easy to implement so developers can just slap that in their application and then make the user feel like they have this inline, super seamless experience the entire time, buying, selling, holding NFTs, crypto, digital assets, or moving money across the world. The last thing that I want to talk about, there's a really cool product that we actually just launched at the end of last year called Smart Ramps. It's our ability to actually do a fiat to crypto on-ramp, but then actually on-ramp directly into a smart contract. So you can actually hit our API with your debit and credit card information, and then actually also the metadata that goes into the smart contract itself, and we will actually call into the smart contract to execute that transaction on-chain how you want. Which is really cool, right? You can mint an NFT with your debit card, you can stake on Uniswap with your bank account, you could play a Web3 game with Apple Pay, right? So really cool use cases, all designed around bridging the gap between traditional financial ecosystems and these new cool crypto ones that we're in.
So cool, man. Amazing stuff. Dylan?
Cool. Yeah. So Callback provides two services in general. One's a non-custodial wallet. That's an easy on-ramp for anybody to ramp up and start collecting NFTs. But we also started providing creator services, and we have a very intuitive, easy-to-use web app. All you do is provide the asset that you want to make an NFT, fill out some parameters, and then choose your distribution method, and then you're off to the races. We pretty much partner only with brands and enterprises in Japan at the moment, but we're looking to expand also globally, hence why I'm here in New York this week. But we're finding that by approaching kind of this cultural aspect of NFTs first, that we're able to have people onboard onto our platform, and then we start partnering with large enterprises, which helps us scale. And yeah.
Cool, man. Do you want to just talk about some of the brands you're working with, or some of the upcoming alpha?
Alpha, yeah. I think the biggest brand right now that's pushing Web3 in Japan is a brand called Ambush. Maybe some of you know it, but they're a strong partner of ours. They do NFT drops for sneaker, whitelist, etc. Otherwise, we work with pretty large brands. ANA is an airline in Japan. Mitsubishi, some of these kind of companies that own a lot of real estate and then are therefore trying to create this Web3 community within all the various buildings they own. Japan's known to have a lot of paper. They love loyalty cards, stamp cards, things like that. So we're slowly guiding companies on how they can make that digital, also make those NFT'd, I suppose.
It's amazing, and it's always great to hear perspectives outside of the states. We forget how global this industry really is. So thanks for that. And yeah, just to touch on Rove, I talked about how we're approaching the user experience side of things. With the Rove World app, right, which is the name of our app, our other belief is that NFTs should be built into products that the masses use, right? We're focused on blockchain ticketing, right? So the tickets to these events are NFTs themselves. The artist can control through the smart contract the resellability, so you don't see these jump up to 90,000 like what happened with Taylor Swift. This allows a lot of the value extraction that you see in Ticketmaster and all that to be removed, and it's really like a direct artist to fan relationship. Through this app and through these NFTs, not only can we track through token gating who holds NFTs, but we can also see who's attending events, right? Proof of attendance based on scanning in. So this allows, for an artist, an event, to get a list of all the attendees, to airdrop NFTs on an ongoing basis, whitelist them to future product launches, give them VIP access to experiences, really creating that direct brand or artist to fan relationship, which is one of the the ultimate benefits of Web3. On the other side of things, I mentioned sort of loyalty reward programs for brands utilizing NFTs, and we're working with some major brands over here in the States to allow a direct way for them to release or sell digital assets to their fan base. This will give their fans access, like I said before. This can reward the loyal consumers or community members, and these really sort of unlock a lot of the potential of NFTs in sort of a very user-friendly manner. We will be piloting a lot of that with our V2 coming up shortly. And like Jamal was saying before, there's a lot of sort of compliance that goes into all that. But at the end of the day, the vast majority of brands want a Web3 presence, right? They realize this is the future. A lot don't know what they're doing. There's a lot of confusion in the space, who to work with. There's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of liability on the side of the brand. And a lot from our talks want a very intuitive sort of mobile product for the most part that really makes sense for their fans and removes a lot of the risks inherent in this. And we think through these products and this sort of once again user-friendly experience, this is really the key to onboard the next billion users and really unlock the full potential of NFTs.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say how happy I am that we're talking about these type of use cases now, instead of just what picture do you have and what picture do you collect. There is an insane amount of stuff that can be done with NFTs, and I think we all know that, which is why we're all here. But it's time that we switch the narrative away from collectibles and more to what is the value we're delivering, what pain points are we solving. I mean, I think just a couple months ago, I'm not sure if people caught the wind of it, but we actually sold a full deeded house on the blockchain on an NFT in North Carolina. It was the coolest thing. We worked with a company called Roofstock, which is a multi-billion-dollar Silicon Valley real estate startup, working with most of the large hedge funds, so you can do online investing in massive groups of real estate, like buying 1,000 homes at once. They've actually built a fully decentralized blockchain portal where you can buy full NFTs, not fractionalized or anything like that. You can buy full NFTs that represent the deed of a house. And they've actually worked with the National Real Estate Association to get approval to get the signing of a MetaMask transaction to be equivalent to you signing a deed, which is pretty incredible stuff. I mean, I feel like we're scratching the surface of a huge new space that's coming out underneath this whole NFT umbrella that people didn't even think was possible before, right? Or, I mean, obviously, we all understand the use case for the creator space and music, and I mean, I'm on the board of a company called LimeWire, which we all probably knew when we were kids, and they relaunched their entire brand to become an NFT marketplace focused on making sure that content creators get proper royalties, which is kind of ironic considering that they probably stole the most royalties in history, but beside the point. But it just goes to show you that people are starting to scratch the surface of what really is possible with NFTs, and it is not I have this collectible that's unique. I mean, I think people still trade baseball cards, So there's always a market for that. But ultimately, we're not doing justice to what the technology can really do unless we start talking about, what Jason and everyone else here is talking about, which is there's actual value to be delivered with NFTs. There's actual pain points that you can solve for people across the world with NFTs, and that's when things get really interesting and powerful. So anyway, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.